Hey there. Have you checked the time recently? Because according to my clock, it's Halloween time.
It's Halloween time!
That guy gets it.
Yacht Club Games. There's a good chance you've heard of these guys before, but for those of you who haven't, first of all, where have you been all this time? And second, what's the housing market like? They're an indie game developer mostly comprised of former employees of Wayford Technologies. If the name sounds familiar, it's because they created the popular Shantae series. Yacht Club Games became well known for making the critically acclaimed Shovel Knight series, which were retro love letters to old school NES platformers. Now, I've never played Shovel Knight myself, but having seen some videos on it, I think I should give it a try sometime. Anyway, back in February 2022, Yacht Club Games showed off a trailer announcing a new IP called Mina the Hollower, along with a Kickstarter campaign to fund the game's development. The campaign concluded in March, having raised over $1.2 million, 4 times its original goal, and backed by over 21,000 platformer-hungry gamers, including yours truly. Originally, the game was set to be released during October 2025, but was delayed for a few months to give the game further polish before release. You know, like a good developer would do. Fast forward to 2026, and finally, Mina the Hollower is available across a multitude of systems.
So, was it worth the wait? Well, we won't know until we dive headfirst into Mina the Hollower.
Let's get the presentation out of the way first, because holy moly, this game looks fantastic. Yacht Club Games did a great job capturing that old school Game Boy Color aesthetic. This is definitely one of the best looking pixel style games I've seen or played in a while. Environments have a drab moody colour palette that complements the theme of gothic horror. Mina's white and red character sprite pops out against the darker backgrounds, sprite animations are superb and expressive, areas are dense yet packed with plenty of detail, and the NPCs are wonderfully weird and charming. Except for the clown though, he's giving me really bad vibes. I get the feeling he's just going to pop out of nowhere and scare the crap out of me. I hope that doesn't happen. The game also has a great 8-bit soundtrack that manages to be funky while invoking a sense of danger. My favourite track has to be the theme for Loner's Landing. It's a catchy tune that sounds straight out of a Castlevania game. Mina the Hollower puts you in the role of Mina. Well, obviously, who else were you going to be, Steve from accounting? Long ago on the Isle of Tenebris, Mina built the spark generators that lifted the island's populace into an age of prosperity. Lately, however, the generators have started to malfunction, warping the land itself along with its inhabitants. Mina is summoned to assess the situation, but her trip gets rudely interrupted by a kraken attacking her ship. I hate it when that happens. Despite her efforts to fend it off, the ship ends up crashing into the island's cliffs. Sorry, Captain, I hope your insurance covers sea monster attacks. Making her way to the city of Essex, Mina meets with her old collaborator, Baron Lionel, unveiling a new orphanage built inside of his mansion.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't raise any red flags at all whatsoever.
Shortly after the reunion, Mina is confronted by Fawn, the former Marshal of Essex, who suddenly rebelled against the Baron and is the one responsible for sabotaging the generators. Mina and Fawn clash, with Fawn escaping to be a thorn in our side another day. And so Mina begins her quest to explore the cursed island, repair the spark generators, and uncover the truth behind Fawn's motives. Mina the Hollower is a top-down 2D action platformer that takes the open-world design of classic Legend of Zelda and mixes it with gameplay elements from Castlevania and the Soulsborne series. Mina's defining gimmick is an ability called hollowing.
Oh hey, just like me! I feel hollow every day.
Hello from the other side.
By pressing and holding the jump button, Mina can dive underground for a brief time, letting her avoid most forms of attacks and traps, kind of like a reimagining of a dodge roll. She can also dig up buried items and enter places she couldn't normally, and she can use the momentum from burrowing to perform a slightly longer jump. Because you have to jump before you can burrow, there's a second of delay where you're vulnerable to damage. Overall, it's a neat mechanic, and honestly, I really dig it. I'm not apologising. During her adventure, Mina will gain access to several weapons to deal with the beasts that stalk Tenebris. You're initially given 3 to choose from as your starting weapon: the twin daggers Whisper and Vesper, the slow yet powerful Blast Strike Maul, and my personal favourite, the Night Star Whip. What can I say? I'm a fan of Castlevania. Also, Mina uses it in the opening cutscene, so that's good enough for me. Later on, you can get 2 other weapons: the Battery Buster, an arm cannon that has limited ammo and you need to smack enemies like a 70s policeman to get more, and the Guardian Casket, which can parry enemy attacks, but I'm not a big fan of parry mechanics, so I never used it.
I mean, who wants to carry around a big ass coffin anyway? I mean, sure, you'll save money on the funeral costs, but I don't want to die with back pain.
In addition to weapons, you also have sidearms, which function the same as sub-weapons from Castlevania. You even need a consumable resource to use them, in this game that being jewels.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be rich!
No, not those kind of jewels, you silly Billy dumbass.
Oh damn it, I'm never gonna own a PS5 at this rate.
And there's a decent variety here, like daggers that are thrown like boomerangs, throwing axes that cause a small shockwave, bouncing bombs that explode when they meet each other, jars of mist that let you dash through enemies to restore some health, or a little pet demon on a leash, also known as a chihuahua. Not all sidearms are used for combat, however. Some are used for traversing the environment and solving some puzzles, like the parasol for crossing large pits, or the steam pump bike with a ramming spike that zips around at high speed. Finally, those sidewalk joggers won't know what hit them. You also have equipable gear in the form of trinkets, which provide special buffs. Trinkets are found through exploration, bought from vendors, or earned as rewards for doing side quests. One example is in Queensberry Crypt, where you find this purple ghost named the Duke, who asks you to take him to his dead lover's coffin so he can be sealed inside with her remains. I mean, we all have our kinks, I suppose. Now, this does raise some ethical questions, like whether we're doing the right thing fulfilling such a morbid request. And seeing as doing it gets you one of the best trinkets in the game, the Proto-Shock, which revives you once upon death, I'm going to say yes. Yes, it is. As you explore the island of Tenebris, you'll notice these cracks on the ground that glow when you walk over them. Now, don't worry, they won't break your mother's back. At least, I don't think so anyway. Mother, no! These are your checkpoints, and by burrowing into them, you're taken to Mina's Underlab, a safe zone where you can recover your health, restock your plasma vials, swap out your weapons and trinkets, and use the Centera to convert bone stone into bones. Mina's Underlab is basically the bonfires from Dark Souls, and just like with bonfires, visiting the Underlab will revive every enemy you've defeated up to that point. Not necessarily a bad thing, since you can use this as an opportunity to grind for bones and level up. Bones are the currency of our Tenebris, which weirdly enough is not the strangest bartering system I've seen or heard of. Bones are buried all over the place, but they're also earned from defeating enemies and bosses. Bones can be spent at shops to buy items and upgrades, but bones also act as experience points. You get enough of them and Mina can bone up. Sounds like a sex pill.
Scientific studies show that 99.9% of women in relationships are very difficult to satisfy, especially in the bedroom. That's why I use Bone Up, the world's leading alternative to Viagra. The next time she complains in bed, remember to bone up. The only moaning she'll be doing is moaning in the bedroom.
Warning, taking bone up may cause erectile dysfunction and or exploding of the balls.
What?
Boning up allows Mina to increase one of her stats, her attack power, her defense, and the strength of her sidearms. She can also choose to convert all of her current bones into bone stone, which won't be lost upon death, and can be changed back into bones using the Underlab Centera. When Mina kicks the proverbial bucket, she drops a spark orb which can be absorbed by nearby enemies. If Mina dies a second time before retrieving it, she loses all the bones she was carrying except for any bone stone. But you are able to upgrade the number of spark orbs you carry, giving you more chances to get your bones back, as well as opening these special doors which require you to temporarily give up some of your orbs. The way you recover health draws inspiration from Bloodborne's rallying mechanic. When you attack enemies or collect these orange flowers, you build up plasma represented by this yellow meter. Then, by chugging down a plasma vial, you can convert that plasma into health. Healing isn't immediate though, and if you get hit while drinking, then you waste that health and one of your vials. It's a risk versus reward system that encourages you to play aggressively, to build up as much plasma as possible to get the most out of your limited heals, while at the same time punishing you if you get too careless.
Well, unless you do what I did and turn on the modifier that prevents damage while healing. Stop judging me!
Mina the Hollower gives the player so many options for customizing the game's difficulty. You can turn on a few modifiers and make the game as easy or as hard as you like, or just enable a bunch of wacky effects in game. The only modifier I turned on for my playthrough was the one that prevents damage when healing. I wanted to experience the game as it was intended, but also give myself just a small crutch so things wouldn't get too frustrating. The modifiers allow players to set preferences for a more fun experience, and beating the game unlocks even more options to tinker with, like the ability to hide underground indefinitely, perfect for all you introverts out there. So Mina can burrow underground, she's got a handful of weapons at her disposal, along with a multitude of secondary weapons and trinkets that give her extra perks, and she has safe zones in the form of her underlab. Sounds like Mina's got a lot going for her. So that must mean this game is a cakewalk, right?
No, not really.
Mina the Hollower is a tough game. This game eats nails for breakfast, without any milk. Now I wouldn't put it in the same ballpark as the NES Castlevania trilogy or even Dark Souls, but Mina the Hollower can and will kick your ass now and then. And keep in mind, I was using a modifier that prevented any damage during healing, and this game was still challenging. You don't have much health at the start of the game, and a lot of enemies are pretty aggressive, punishing the smallest of mistakes. On top of that, Mina can only attack in 4 directions, and some enemies move in a way that makes it difficult to hit them because of this. The platforming is no slouch either, often demanding precise or well-timed jumps in many areas, and on the occasion where the platforming meshes with combat, it can get a little hectic. But despite all that, the game never feels unfair in its design. It might frustrate you terribly, like my first time going through Septemberg with its wind physics and lightning hazards, but whenever I died to an enemy or failed a difficult platforming section, it always felt like it was my fault, my mistake. That being said though, this section near the end of the game can go down in a fire. God, I died so many times here. The city of Ossex serves as your main hub, your Firelink Shrine if you will. Well, if Firelink Shrine was built in the middle of a high street with shops and stuff. From here you can venture out to the neighbouring regions that house the 6 spark generators. You have the haunted graveyards of Queensberry Crypt, the autumn-themed town of Septemberg, the murky swamps of Knox's Bayou, the bone-riddled sands of Bone Beach, the icy passes of Coltrane Peak, and the otherworldly research station that is the Astral Orrery. Each area has their own brand of enemies and platforming obstacles, sometimes with 1 or 2 mini-bosses leading up to the penultimate showdown with that area's main boss. Boss battles, both mandatory and optional, are all uniquely designed and daunting encounters that will test your abilities, mainly your hollowing skills. Some bosses have multiple phases, becoming more aggressive or changing up their attacks as the fight progresses. Once the big baddie is finally put down, you're still not done as you still need to repair that area's spark generator. You know, the whole reason you're here in the first place. Come on now, pay attention, this'll be on the test. These sections have you running up the towers to reach the generator up top, all the while avoiding enemies and hazards while being chased by a ring of electricity. There are these plug holes around the towers that, at first, I thought only cleared you a path, but as I learned much later, they also push back the rising electricity. Maybe if I took notice of the progress meter to the side there, I might have known that. These parts can seem a little tedious, especially after just beating the boss prior, but I suppose they're harmless. Literally, in fact. You don't lose any health when you're hurt, and if you get caught by the electrical current, you don't die, you just fall to the bottom of the tower so you can try again. It also helps that these sections don't last very long, around a minute at most. You've waited longer than that for a coffee at Starbucks.
So, was it worth the wait? Yes, absolutely. In this day and age of modern gaming, where we've seen plenty of broken glitchy messes and soulless cash grabs, it's always refreshing to see a game with genuine passion and effort behind it. The combat and the platforming is challenging but satisfying, the world of Tenebris has plenty to do and discover, the 8-bit pixel art style is wonderful, and while the difficulty might sound like a turn-off, the amount of accessibility options available means just about anybody can pick this game and have a good time. And if you're someone who grew up with the Game Boy Zelda games, or is just a fan of retro games in general, then I think it's safe to say you will too. So what are you waiting for? Don't you think it's time to get this game and play it yourself?
It's Halloween time!
See, this guy gets it.
Hello there, and thank you for watching my video on Mina the Hollower. This video took way longer to make than it should have done, but that's the downside to having a job, I guess. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment and maybe subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.